This module will talk about morphological processes. This means what are the sound processes or the phonological processes, the things we do with the actual pronunciation. So there's two different things here. There's the inflectional processes, the sound processes, and then there's the inflectional categories, which refers to the meaning. The inflectional processes would be what you have to do to the sounds of the morphemes in order to show that you've added this new morpheme, this new piece of meaning to the word you're building. The inflectional category would be the aspect of the world that you're speaking of or that you're trying to call into existence through your speech, through your writing. What aspect of the world is being agreed with? That sounds a little bit abstract. Maybe the best way to illustrate this is with an example. So let's say cat. So cat is the meaning that I'm trying to convey. And that's fine if I'm just talking about the general idea of there being this feline animal or one particular instance. But if the world that I'm trying to call forth into being, if the world I'm trying to convey, there's more than one of these, I actually have to inflect for plural. I have to put an inflectional ending here, a suffix, which indicates there's actually more than one cat, that there's several cats here. So it's a process, the affixation, putting the sound at the end, is the sound process that I use in order to convey this extra piece of meaning. And this inflectional category we call number. There's singular number when there's only one thing. There's plural number when there's more than one thing. That's the category or the aspect of the world that I'm calling into being through my speech, that I'm trying to communicate by adding this little s at the end. So there's several different kinds of morphological processes. The most common one that we think of is affixation. Affix, kind of like I add something to it and I fix it. There's prefixes. We've seen these derivational prefixes like prepay or repay or underpay or overpay. These would all be prefixes which attach to pay. And in fact, in Arabic, the al in words like algebra or alcohol was a prefix which just meant the. Algebra would be the jabra, the calculating. Alcohol would be the liquid, right, or the drink. And so al was a prefix originally in Arabic, but now its prefixness, its prefix nature has been lost, and we think of the al as just being part of the root, a single root algebra or a single root alcohol. You could have suffixes, so we saw that this s is a suffix that attaches to the end of the root cat to communicate that idea that there's more than one. There's a country in the Persian Gulf, Bahrain, and actually Bahrain, also in Arabic, bahr means sea or ocean, and ain means two of them. It's a dual number, that it means two seas. But again, when we use this morpheme in English, it's a single morpheme. It's not made of a root and a suffix the way that would be in Arabic. An Arabic speaker would hear the word Bahrain to mean two seas, or more than one sea. But we would just see it as a single morpheme, Bahrain. It would be a single root. Infixes are very rare in English, although they're used a lot in Austronesian languages like Tagalog or Indonesian. The only infix that we really have in English is sometimes you can make a word stronger by adding a swear word into the middle of it. And the rule for English is that you put the swear word in between, you put the swear word right before the stressed syllable. So California, the for in California is the most stressed word. So I would say Cala-effin-fornia. Or in Tennessee, the C is actually the most stressed syllable, the primary stress in the word Tennessee. So if I was going to make a negative statement about this day, I'd say tenna effin C. And so I would be actually infixing. I'm sticking this thing into the middle of what would otherwise be a single morpheme root. That's called an infix. An interfix is where we saw with Arabic, where a single root would be just made of three consonants, like kataba, and then I stick in between those consonants different vowels. So kitab means book, that which is written. Kutib means he wrote. And so the vowels that I sort of stick in between these root things, inter, kind of like among those roots, would be the addition that I made. So a key sign that you've got an affix is adding sounds to the word. The morpheme plus the affix, there'll be more sounds than the morpheme without the affix. Another process altogether is suppletion. This is where a root is so radically transformed that some say it would have to be from a totally different historical form. There's no really resemblance between the roots that are being talked about here. So in Lithuanian, we have to fly, the verb to fly. The past tense root for to fly would be pronounced skrid, so skridum would be we flew. The present tense root would be skrand, skrandum is we are flying or we fly, and the future root would be skris, so skrisum would be we will fly. So this is a case where it's not an affix. I'm not necessarily just inserting things. Like here I've got like a really different root. And sometimes suppletion is even more extreme. In Russian, I use the word god to mean a year. If I'm talking about 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, if I'm talking about any number of years that ends with the digits 5 through 0, then I can't use the word god. I have to replace it with a totally different root altogether, liet. So there's no relationship between these. One has totally supplanted, totally replaced the other. In English, we see this with the adjective good gets replaced by bet when you add that comparative suffix, and it gets replaced with b when we add that superlative est suffix, like fast, faster, fastest. I don't say good, good, or goodest. I say good, better, best. So this is a totally radical transformation here. Korean, ju would be the root for to give if I'm talking about a normal situation, but if I'm saying give to someone that I have expressing honor for, I would have to replace the root ju altogether and use a different root, dri, which is the root for honorific or honorable giving. So this would be a case of suppletion. Alternation would be sort of switching out one for another, keeping other things the same. We have this in English with plurals where goose would become geese. I'm switching out the vowel for a different vowel. Tooth would become teeth. I'm switching out the vowel for another vowel. Past tense forms can be tricky in English. Vowel alternation is often part of what we do. For the verb feel, I do add a consonant to the end, a normal suffix to mark the past tense, but I don't say field. What I do is I replace the vowel e with another vowel fell, and then instead of doing the d past tense, I take the t. So this vowel alternation between the root feel and fell, the past tense root, is part of what indicates the pastness of the verb feel. And then for a verb like sink, we have sink, sank, sunk. So the vowel alternation between e, a, and is part of what is used to indicate whether this is a regular bare form verb, a past tense verb, or the past participle. Reduplication is technically an affix. I'm adding sounds. I'm not just replacing a sound, but I'm adding sounds which already appear somewhere else in the word. So ta would be I strike, or you strike, or he strike, she strikes in Samoan. Ta-ta, where I reduplicate the first two phonemes, would be the plural version of this. Nofo would be a singular version for sit. No-nofo would be the plural version of sit. Moe would be sleep. Mo-moe would be the plural version of sleep. Alofa is the singular version of love. Alolofa would be the plural version of love. I'm copying things. Greek does this to indicate the past completed form. Luo is I release. Le luka is I have released. Tuo is I sacrifice. Te tuka, I have sacrificed. Grapho is I write. Ge grapha is I have written. So I reduplicate the first consonant. I use it twice. I take this la and do le luka. I take this te tuka. I take this ge grapho, right? And that's how I indicate this, that I've completed this action. So I'm copying something. So basically in this data set, what we'll do in class is to look at these and to decide for each of these sets of data, is this an illustration of affixation as a phonological or morphological process, alternation as a morphological process, suppletion as a morphological process, or reduplication as a morphological process?